So hello and welcome. First of all, I would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to listen to this call. And if you've come to this point, you're probably pretty confused by all the information that's been thrown at you. And hopefully we can resolve this confusion with some real solid information that you can truly rely on. Now, we realize that this is a very important decision, and we commend you for taking the time to educate yourself with information that we're going to share with you today. After all, every alkaline water expert agrees that the single most important healthy choice that you can make for your body is to drink ionized, alkaline, restructured water. And we couldn't agree more. But by the same accord, if you're like myself, you probably want to know which is the absolute best machine to spend your money on. When we first looked at this technology, we wanted to make absolutely sure that this machine was worth its weight in gold or no deal. What we don't want happening is for someone to make a purchase based on false pretenses, half-truths, or information that is simply dead wrong. So many claim to have the best machine, and obviously that can't be true. What we plan to do is arm you up with as much knowledge as possible and clarify any confusion so that you can make the correct decision for yourself. So in our research, we evaluated well over 25 different ionizers, and we will cover some of the key differences that we found. Now, this is a comprehensive call and has a dual purpose. One is to compare the top Jupiter models with the Enagic SD501, and our second aim is to educate our team on factual evidence that we've uncovered. So we'll take some time to give them some illustrations and analogies that they can utilize, giving them the power to correctly inform people that are also interested in understanding the truth. So the number one question that we get most is as follows. Is there additional quality and value in the SD501, or is it just an artificially inflated $1,500 machine that has been overpriced to justify an MLM compensation plan? So let's get started. If you ask the CEO of every ionizer company what the most important component would be, they'd all clearly state that it's the water cell. It's often referenced to as the heart of the unit, or sometimes we'll hear it called the engine of the machine. Nothing is more important than this crucial piece of the puzzle. So let me share with you what we found. Now, it's interesting that Jupiter states that they have large plates on their site. So what I did is I wanted to investigate this. So we contacted Enagic's head office in California and asked to talk to some of their top technicians to see if they could shed some light on this situation. And here's what they told me. First off, they had recently taken apart one of the Jupiter $1,500 Aquarius and Orion ionizers. They're essentially the same unit with a different exterior. And what they found was really quite interesting. They pulled the water cell apart to take a closer look at the electrode plates. And an interesting observation was that 3 out of the 5 plates were actually mesh, and you could see through them. I thought that was a little bit weird, because on their site it actually shows that they apply mesh to their plates. But then we also discovered that 2 of those plates were solid. That's something to mentally note. The main thing I wanted to find out was what was the actual size of the plates. So they gave me a measurement of approximately 3 by 5 inches. Now, another new company on the scene, KYK Harmony, formerly with Jupiter, confirmed this particular piece of the puzzle. On the KYK Harmony site, they actually show the plates of both Jupiter and KYK Harmony. And on this site, it states that the Jupiter plates measure in at 7 centimeters by 10 centimeters, which translates to 2 3/4 inches by 4 inches. KYK rings in at double the Jupiter length at 8 inches. So KYK states that, and I quote, the electrodes are the most important component to ionization, and the KYK Harmony's electrode plates are about twice the size of other water ionizers. So let's see if this holds true. Now, to get the total surface area of each water cell, we will calculate the size of the single plate first by multiplying the width by the height, then multiplying that number by the amount of plates found in each water cell. So Jupiter would be 2 3/4 inches by 4 inches for a total of 11 square inches per plate. KYK would be 2 3/4 inches by 8 inches for a total of 22 square inches per plate. I've personally held the water cell from the SD501 in my hand. Enagic's technicians confirmed my estimate at 5 inches by 7 inches for a total surface area of 35 square inches per plate. So let's do some simple math. The SD501 has 7 plates times 35 and comes in at a total surface area of 245 square inches per water cell. The KYK has 5 plates times 22 for a total surface area of 110 inches per water cell, and the Jupiter has 5 plates times 11 for their grand total of 55 square inches per water cell. That means that the Jupiter total surface area is 445% smaller than the Enagic SD501. That is a huge piece of the pie, or in Jupiter's case, it's a pretty small piece of the pie. But seriously, to put it another way, it would actually take you 22 and a half of Jupiter's plates to cover the 7 Enagic plates. Did you hear what I just said? It would take 22.5 Jupiter plates to cover the 7 Enagic plates. Okay, now, to better illustrate this example, when you get off this call, go find 7 DVD cases and place them side by side. Then go find 2 CD cases and place them on top of the DVD cases and try to cover them. This is exactly 55 square inches. When I did this, it absolutely blew me away. And if you want a fair estimate on the size of the Jupiter plate just as a single, they're just slightly bigger than a deck of cards or slightly smaller than an old cassette case. Let me give you some background of how the SD501 evolved, just to show you the magnitude of the engineering that was placed into the making of this machine. In June 2003, Enagic released a commercial unit designed for heavy use in restaurants. This unit has the same size massive plates, but it has 12 of them. The difference being is that they have 2 separate water cells inside of it. They have a 7-plate cell used to create the strong acidic and alkaline water for disinfecting, cooking, and cleaning the food for the entire restaurant, and the 5-plate water cell is used to produce the drinking water for the restaurant and the staff. This unit has a $6,000 price tag to it. Can you imagine how the engineering would hold up in your house? Pretty amazing if you ask me. Now remember, the theory was that Enagic is supposed to be only worth $1,500. Are you starting to have some doubts? So let's take a look at the 2 most important metals in the water cell. Titanium is an expensive anti-corrosive metal that is used extensively in the aerospace industry, and platinum is the second material, coming in at just under $1,400 an ounce. It's not rocket science to figure out that if you walked into a bank with 245 ounces of platinum rather than a mere 55 ounces, you'd get paid a heck of a lot more money for it. Now obviously we don't have 245 ounces on our machine, but I think we get the point. So let's look at other ways companies can save money at your expense. They can cover their plates by using a spraying technique which results in platinum that's only a few microns thin. When done correctly, the company will actually dip their plates in platinum, resulting in a much thicker layer of this precious metal coating. Now this is essential for correct ionization and extends the lifespan of your machine, and this is an area that Enagic is most proud of. So we know that Jupiter cut one major corner on plate size. Let's take a look at what corner KYK has cut to keep the price of the unit below $1,500. Now remember, KYK Harmony claims that their electrode plates are twice the size of any other water ionizer, creating the most consistent ionization yet. They go on to say that the white gold used to coat the KYK Harmony plate is a cooler material than platinum, which most ionizers use. This will lead to a longer plate lifespan, and the white gold also enhances ionization. Okay, now let's take a look at what Jupiter has to say about this. The KYK Harmony, another new entry into the US market, uses white gold for their plating. This is very misleading, as there is no such thing as white gold, since gold is always yellow. White gold, in fact, is actually an amalgam and contains at least 62% silver and other minerals. Platinum is about $1,250 an ounce, while silver about $12 an ounce. Obviously, all the Japanese manufacturers and Jupiter Science, etc., would use white gold if it was any good. Now, I must apologize up front that there's so much of this he says, she says thing going on in the industry, but we truly agree with Jupiter on this point. No company in their right mind would add these expenses if they didn't dramatically increase performance, functionality, and durability. So yes, all units have filters, yes, all units have ionizing chambers, but no, they are not all created equal. As you're now starting to see, you do truly get what you pay for. Now let's look at some real-life stats on the effect that these shortcuts have on a machine. Getting back to Jupiter. I went ahead and I printed out their owner's manual for the Aquarius and the Orion models, and at the very back of the manual you will find their specification sheet. There are 3 key areas that reveal the differences between the Jupiter models and the SD501. They all result from this small water cell. The first being that the output capacity for the Jupiter units is 3 liters per minute, and the SD501 can produce 8 liters per minute. This is almost 3 times more water per minute in output capacity. Second, their unit has a filter life of approximately 1,000 gallons, whereas the SD501 handles triple the water per filter at 3,000 gallons. And third, the Jupiter power consumption is 80 watts, and the Enagic SD501 consumes 230 watts of power. This again is almost 3 times less capacity on the Jupiter model. And don't fall for the spin that this makes their machine more efficient, which brings me to my next point. Now, I have an electronics background from college, and over the years I've purchased plenty of electronic equipment and have sold even more. So what I'd like to do is discuss the idea of wattage and how much power these units need to function safely for optimal performance. On a Jupiter website, we came across a tricky salesman attempting to twist the truth to their advantage, and I quote, Some manufacturers are employing larger plating and claiming they are superior. They hope to fool the consumer into thinking bigger is better. With electronics, quite the opposite is true. Consider how the radio, camera, computer, and TV have evolved. The large electrodes draw 3 to 4 times more power, decreasing the electrode life with no additional benefit to the water. The first time I read this, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was once again the smaller guy trying to justify their inadequacies, and they're actually wrong. So what I'm going to do is oversimplify this so that everyone can understand it. So if you know anything about electronics, the smaller the plates are, the quicker they're going to heat up in fatigue, not the opposite. Think about it this way. When you're heating up a small pot of soup on your stove, you'll use the small element, because that's all it's required. When you heat up a larger pot of spaghetti for the entire family, you'll need to use the larger element. You do not waste any power by doing this, because you're using the right element for the right job. But try and heat up that large pot on the tiny element. It takes you a lot longer and will actually waste power, and who knows if you'll even get the job done. It's like using a toaster oven to cook a turkey. It's really quite that simple. So we are dealing with water running into a cell and flowing over electrolyzed plates. The larger the plates and the more voltage being applied to them, the stronger the electrolysis, producing a superior water. So remember, the power consumption of Jupiter is 80 watts, and Enagic is 3 times more at 230 watts. It's features like these that dramatically extend the life expectancy of your ionizer, not decrease it. This could be why Dr. Carpenter mentions on his call that when he used Jupiter water for 2 years, that the pH would drop off quickly, and every time he made his favorite greens drink, the particles would sink to the bottom. Once he finally heard about Enagic's SD501 and switched over to this machine, he was quite surprised to find that the greens stayed in suspension. So let's move on. To further illustrate this point, the technicians in California ran some tests on the Jupiter unit. They let a continuous flow of water run through it for 10 minutes, and they tested the water every 2 minutes, and the ORP would drop off dramatically. So we reconstructed this experiment with the SD501 and ran the water through it for 30 straight minutes. And at 12 minutes, there was absolutely no roll-off. But after a half an hour, we found a 15-point drop in ORP. That's amazing. Did you hear that? Only 15 points in a half an hour? That's unbelievable. So remember, this unit was designed to be rugged and to handle whatever a restaurant could throw at it. This is probably the reason that Dr. Carpenter has stated over and over again that Jupiter and other water ionizers that he has tested had a shorter lifespan and lower caliber of water. So to close out on this point, what I'd like to do is give everyone a visual. Okay, think about 2 pickup trucks. One is a little small truck, and the other is a large Dodge Hemi. They will both be able to reach 100 miles per hour quite easily. When you place an extremely heavy trailer in the back and send both of them through the mountains, the small truck is more likely to overheat and ruin its engine. Meanwhile, the large truck still has over 400% headroom and can easily handle that heavy load. In fact, it could go from one end of the country and back without even showing any signs of fatigue. We agree that bigger isn't always better, but in this case, it truly is. I want everyone to remember that we're not just buying an old appliance. This is a medical device that we're purchasing to help create a healthier body. What we're after is the results that this machine can bring to our lives. It's not like buying a truck or an oven. This is what will be responsible for hydrating your body and helping it to regenerate your tissues. It always comes back to the results people are getting and the results that you'd like to see over the next decade and a half. When it comes down to this question, does this machine have any additional value? I think we could pretty much stop right here. But let's take a look at what else the SD501 has to offer. One of the things that separates the SD501 from the competition is this ionizer contains 2 different technologies built into one machine. There's a special feature on the 501 called the electrolysis enhancer tank. What you do is you add a saline solution to this tank to help create strong acid waters and strong alkaline waters, which they made removable so that if you need to transport the unit, the internal components won't be harmed by the saline solution. This feature is accessed by a strong acidic button on the front of the machine. This is one of the least understood and undervalued aspects when considering the purchase of a water ionizer. Do not underestimate the importance of this feature. There's a massive difference between acidic water and strong acidic water. To give you an idea, acidic water has a value of 4.0 pH and is 1,000 times more acid than neutral 7.0 water. Strong acidic water is produced at 2.5 pH and is 50,000 times more acidic than neutral or tap water in layman's terms. And in fact, if you do not have the strong acidic tank, you should not be comparing your machine to the SD501 in the first place. Now I'm going to tell you a quick little story to illustrate the importance of this feature. A professional window washer on my team fell and broke his leg in 10 places. The doctors put him back together as best they could, and he was placed into traction and stayed in the hospital for weeks on end. A short period of time after he was sent home, his leg took a turn for the worse. So his foot was looking a little funny and smelling a tad off, so he went back to the hospital, and the doctor took one sniff of the foot and told him that gangrene was setting in. And if it doesn't get better in a few days, we're going to have to amputate your foot. Now, can you imagine your doctor telling you that you're going to lose your foot? How devastating and scary would that be? Now, hopefully you've already seen some of the videos of the strong acidic water and what it can do to disinfect and rejuvenate skin, but if you haven't, you might want to do that after this call. But let's get back to our story. Luckily for him, his friend Jackson, also in our group, had recently purchased the SD501. When Jackson heard about his friend's situation, he immediately produced him 5 gallons of the strong acidic water, and they started soaking his foot in the strong acidic water for 1 hour a day. During this time, he was also drinking the alkaline 9.5 Kangen water, and within 1 week, his foot was saved. The skin on his foot had returned back to normal and was a fleshy pink again. Of course, it still had its scarring, but I think we get the point. Now, this was a pretty amazing event for everyone involved. Now, look down at your left foot and imagine that it was gone for the rest of your life. Like, how would you feel about that? Obviously that would be horrible. So I asked myself a ridiculous question. I was sitting there thinking, if someone offered me $10,000 for my left foot, would I take them up on it? No chance. But what if somebody offered you $1 million for your left leg? Would you do it? You better have said no. Okay. But realistically, this should give us a good wake-up call to how important our body truly is. Now here's some brief science. It's a little-known fact about bacteria and other pathogens that they thrive in environments of pH levels between 3.0 and 4.0. If you look closely at almost all machines, they can only get down to about 4.0 pH, and a few of them can get as low as 3.0. Although some people have attempted to jerry-rig the machines and do some things that they weren't designed for, but we won't get into that. The problem is that bacteria and pathogens can only be killed in pH levels of 2.6 pH and below. In under 30 seconds, nothing survives, and you can go watch the videos to see this. Now check this out. The Jupiter specification sheet states that they produce water typically down to 4.0, but claims under ideal conditions they can get as low as 2.5. What does this mean, and what conditions are ideal? Can you imagine a restaurant relying on that kind of information to prevent food poisoning? Let's put it this way, I wouldn't want to risk my foot on it. Now I apologize, I'm somewhat passionate about this. I actually had my left foot shattered back in 1990, and if this had happened to me, I'd be pretty upset. But an even scarier thought comes to mind. What if Jackson had read the Kangen Myths and Facts article and was influenced to buy the Jupiter based on this inaccurate information? Like, what would have happened to his friend's foot? This is serious business, and we're talking about people's lives, and this is important for us to remember. Now let's look at the other side of this equation. Let's talk about strong alkaline water for a minute. This water has a pH level of 11.5 and is produced at the same time the strong acidic water is made, only it comes out of the top hose. We all know that oil and water don't mix. Until now. The strong alkaline water is so strong that it actually emulsifies oil. So why is this so important? Well, decades ago, water-based insecticides and pesticides were used on our food crops. The trouble with this was every time it rained, they all washed off. This was very ineffective and costly to keep reapplying. So to alleviate this issue, man started using oil-based insecticides and pesticides. What this means to us is that all of the fruits and vegetables that we're ingesting are now covered in these poisons and toxic chemicals. What this means to you is that when you cleanse your food with the powerful Kangen water, you will see a toxic sludge and residue that comes off of your fruits and vegetables. It's so disgusting that you wouldn't even humor drinking this, not even for $100. The other thing is that the fruit actually tastes a whole lot better. But when you attempt to clean your food with tap water, nothing happens, which means we've been eating these toxins for years. The good news is, when the 11.5 strong alkaline water is used, you no longer have to. Take a look at some of the pictures that we offer people to get a good idea of what comes off of your fruit and vegetables. I should also mention that this water is so strong it lifts stains off of everything from carpets to clothing. Remember earlier when we talked about the commercial unit with the 12 plates in it? The SD501 is the result of Enagic making a bulletproof unit for the household based on the technology of the commercial machine. And both units share the same 7-plate water cell. That is why we call the SD501 the Cadillac of the industry. So if this water cell was designed to endure the everyday abuse that a restaurant would put it through, can you imagine how it would hold up in your home? Pretty amazing if you ask me. Now nearly every company we looked at didn't incorporate this technology into their machines. I'll say it again, and if you don't have this feature on your Ionizer, you can't begin to compare your product to the SD501. They simply aren't the same. To bring this topic to a close, we never advise a person to purchase a Super 501 for a household. We pride ourselves on recommending the right machine for the right job, and in fact, since the SD501 hit the market, virtually no one on our team has purchased any of Enagic's other models. Once people understand the differences and realize how important health is, they only want the best of the best. Now that you've heard the two most important features that distinguish Enagic's SD501 from the rest, let's move on. Most people are not aware that Enagic has its own manufacturing plant in Osaka, Japan. In this plant, they build every single component of their machines. All of the parts are manufactured in-house, and in fact, they even make the mold fittings inside the boxes used to ship the machines. They are so dedicated to quality that nothing is imported to the company, unlike other manufacturers who do import and use assembly line plants. Now, Enagic has taken the time-consuming and costly endeavor to obtain UL, CSA, and ISO 9001 and 14001 certifications. UL stands for Underwriters Laboratories and is very expensive. The ISO 9001 certification is for manufacturing, and the 14001 certification is for environmental award. I thought I'd bring this up because certain websites have not given us credit for this, and we think that you should give credit where credit is due. The pride they take in their product extends even beyond their commitment not to insource or outsource any of their materials. They go so far as to have an experienced craftsman assemble one entire unit from the ground up. They have the machines hand-built by one person. That's pretty impressive. Rather than an assembly line worker that other companies use to do the same repetitive job over and over again. Very much like Mercedes does when they have one person build and tune an entire engine. With Enagic, you're getting a skilled worker to ensure attention to detail and high-quality craftsmanship. One incredibly important attribute to note is that the water cell is built with an open architecture. This means it can be dismantled if something should go wrong with your machine. The reason I bring this up is because we had one person run into trouble in a very hard water state. What they had done is they ran copious amounts of water through their ionizer in the first couple of months. They didn't take the time out to put the cleaning cartridge into the unit, so the machine actually ran into some serious issues. What ended up happening is they'd hit the 9.5 button, produce the water, and take the reagent and test it, and it was coming in only at 8.5. What had happened is in the big water cell, some of the scaling and mineral deposits actually were taking hold on the plates. So what we decided to do is call the company to find out if anything could be done for this person. And luckily what we found out was absolutely key. All you have to do is send in the unit, Enagic will take it apart, have their top technicians do this for you. They unbolt the water cell and clean off all the plates for you. Then they send it back to you, and you have a brand new pristine unit again. And all this is done for a nominal fee of $40. If you take a look at the pictures that we have, you can actually see that the water cell can be disassembled, and there's bolts all the way around it. Other units, on the other hand, are using a closed architecture, and if anything goes wrong with the water cell, the unit actually becomes a boat anchor, or you have to send it in to have the entire engine replaced. Now, if we're running into trouble with our huge water cell, can you imagine what's happening with these other small water cells that are out there? Let's face it, ours was designed to take on restaurant abuse, and we have 245 square inches of actual surface area, and some of the other guys are as small as 55 square inches. It only takes some logic to conclude that if we're willing to admit this and we're running into trouble from time to time, I can only imagine what's happening to these poor little guys. One gentleman on our team by the name of Ken called Jupiter to find out how much it would cost if you had to replace the engine. It tallied $700. Now, personally, I think it's a lot smarter just to have to pay $40 just in case you run into trouble rather than replace the entire engine for $700. The SD501 has a reverse cleaning mechanism that automatically cleans itself every 15 minutes of use. Reverse polarity is used to disengage the particulate from the plates. Most others do this every 12 hours of use. Some websites and companies even suggest that you try and run vinegar through their units to do this. Not only is this an unrealistic request, it is also cumbersome and impractical. It also shows you that they haven't truly considered or designed a way to deal with cleaning their machines. As Dr. Carpenter has mentioned, Jupiter's had some issues with the lifespan of their units. This is most likely resulting from incorrectly cleaning their water cells. Their dark technology is their attempt to rectify this problem, which is proof that they have finally realized this design flaw and try to counteract the issue of scale buildup in mineral deposits, which will hopefully alleviate this problem. We attempted to have this feature explained to us by Jupiter, but nobody's truly clear on it yet. Let me put it to you this way. Ionized water will leave mineral deposits on the inside of a water bottle, let alone on the inside of water cells. In a nutshell, this dark technology would have to be flawless, but to be honest, it doesn't look too bad to me. To combat this, Enagic incorporated into all their units cleaning cartridges. that only cost $20 per cleaning. It is recommended that you do this every 4 to 6 months or so. This makes the water taste better, it extends the performance and durability of your machine, and it immediately restores the caliber of the water produced by your ionizer. The idea is very much like a car engine and the oil filter. You service it every 3,000 miles to protect your engine. The difference being, this time you're protecting your health as well. Remember earlier when we talked about the idea of ORP falling off if you ran the water through a Jupiter too long? The same type of thing happens over months and months of use with any water ionizer, including the Enagic models. Now, some of our team has actually got a hold of the Jupiter units and tested them against the Enagic models on the same source water. Here's what we found in Calgary. In Calgary at normal speed, Jupiter tested at minus 80 ORP, yet the SD501 came in at minus 430. But in fairness to Jupiter, when the water was run exceedingly slowly through their ionizer, their results came in at minus 236, while the SD501 had a reading of minus 490. In Vancouver, Canada, we tested the Enagic at minus 380, and the Jupiter came in at minus 70. Now, the team readings are consistent with what's found in Dr. Young's book, The pH Miracle for Weight Loss, which was published in 2005, and it shows the Regenesis unit, which is also made by Jupiter, only registering minus 78 ORP. My point behind this is now Enagic has started an ORP war, where everybody is trying to show how low their ORPs and their machines are capable of doing. So bear with me, because I'm going to get a little bit scientific here for a second. Okay, now I want you to keep in mind that ORP and pH are not the only indicators of the water's potential. To measure an incredibly important attribute such as dissolved hydrogen, we need an expensive testing device called a diaphragm polylograph type dissolved hydrogen electrode. To look at the molecular population of water, we need to look at nuclear magnetic resonance devices, which requires sophisticated understanding of science. But that would get too complicated for the purpose of this call, so let's not even go there. Okay, we could dig deeper and deeper into the science, but there just seems to be something different about the Kangen water that isn't present in other ionized water that we've taken a look at. In fact, we've noticed major health differences in people who've owned our 5-plate model, then upgraded to the 7-plate SD501. And that's only a 40% decrease in surface area. So it's not hard for you to draw your own conclusions as to what might happen when we downgrade to models with 200 to 445% less heart in their units. Now that was quite the mouthful. In fact, I think I need some Kangen water and a little break. But before we do that, we should let you know that there's one more piece to this call coming up. We have finally arrived at the home stretch. We have taken the time to cover some of our key features and would like to give a reasonable dollar value to what these features could be worth over the next 15 years. So keep in mind you don't see Lexus comparing themselves to Hyundai, yet all day on TV you'll find Hyundai attempting to compare themselves to Lexus. Now I'm not sure about you, but I don't really buy into the idea that you can get an equally engineered car for $30,000 less and maintain the same level of craftsmanship. Now speaking of cars, when you go out to purchase a vehicle, you can buy the base model or add features all the way up to the fully loaded deluxe model. Each car has a starting price, and as you add on the upgrades, you pay for each enhancement. The difference being, this time we're directly investing in our health and well-being. In the summer of 2007, we conducted a little experiment. We wanted to talk to people who have actually test-driven the SD501 for at least 6 months to a year to give us some honest feedback, and to get a loose barometer of what value they'd place on these upgrades and feature enhancements. We did this originally for our own curiosity, to see what people would say when we asked them a series of 9 questions. Now supposedly the SD501 is only worth $1,500, so let's use that as our base price. Now we realize up front that this is not an exact science, but just an exercise to get a guesstimate of what people felt these enhancements would be worth over the next decade or so. They were made fully aware of all the information that we've shared with you. We surveyed 6 people and totaled up their answers to reach a reasonable average. So the first thing we asked everyone was, would you be willing to downgrade from the SD501 to our 5-plate model, the Levelock DX2? Everyone responded, not a chance. So if they weren't willing to do this, you can bet your last dollar that they wouldn't even humor the purchase of any other machine. Okay, so question number 1 is, over the next decade, what value would you place on the water cell, now knowing it's not just about the number of plates in it, but more about the extra 445% surface area, thus increasing the performance and longevity of your machine? What do you feel that that's worth to you? The average total came in at $1,400. Question number 2. Factoring in that the available power is capable of delivering triple the current to those large electrodes, gaining you extra headroom in electrolysis to create a more powerful antioxidant-rich water on a daily basis, What would you say that's worth to you? The tally came in at $400. Now here's a side note to this point. We call it the bubble test. Once you get your machine, run water through it slowly at the 8.5 pH setting. Note the bubble count you see coming out of the water. Now hit the 9.5 button and fill a new glass with water. The number of bubbles you'll observe is insane. You actually can't even see through the glass. It almost looks like milk. These are hydrogen bubbles coming out of the water, and after about 30 seconds, the water becomes clear and ready to drink. Other machines do not produce this caliber of water. In fact, our own machine barely produces the bubbles at either the 9.0 or the 8.5 settings. Yet the ORP stays pretty close. Once again, there's more going on here than meets the eye. Or in this case, it's what you can actually see with the eye. What this does is give you millions and millions of antioxidants and active hydrogen to nourish and cleanse your body. With each increase in settings, they increase the voltage to the electrode plates to turbocharge your water. I call it lightning in a bottle. Question number 3. You now understand that the SD501 has a strong acid-alkaline chamber that virtually no other machine has built in. What most people aren't aware of is that hospitals and restaurants have machines specifically designed to only produce these two types of water, giving you the ability to do everything from cleanse your food of pesticides to clearing up major skin conditions. What number value would you place on that? Many said that this feature alone would be worth half the $4,000 price tag, but the grand total came in at $1,000. Question number 4. Now that you know that every piece of the unit is custom built exclusively in a Enagic's manufacturing plant, and that they maintain 100% quality control every step of the way, what dollar value would you place on this attention to detail for your investment? And survey says $400. Question number 5. Now knowing that Enagic has one craftsman hand-build each unit from the ground up, what would you appraise this high-quality personal touch to be worth? Again, our average hit the $400 mark. Question number 6. Being aware of the fact that Enagic has engineered the water cell to be disassembled if you ever run into any serious trouble, or you just want to have your machine professionally cleaned for $40, what level would you place on this type of peace of mind? Our average number this time came in at $500. Question number 7. Knowing that Enagic has worked in a feature very similar to the oil filter on your car, allowing you to clean its engine, just the fact that you have the ability to personally clean your machine every 4 to 6 months with the ever-important cleaning cartridge, what number would you assign to this level of ingenuity that every other manufacturer chose to ignore? The tally came in at $600. Now, it's absolutely astounding that other manufacturers have not incorporated this critical feature. We clean our toilets, our bathtubs, our stoves, and our car engines, yet they don't thoroughly clean the ionizers we will be drinking from on a daily basis. That's ridiculous. It blows me away that they skipped this feature. Everything from our colon to our teeth needs cleaning, and don't let anyone tell you different. Question number 8. Jupiter comes with a 3-year warranty, and Enagic includes a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty. Now this is an extra 2 years on a $4,000 machine, not to be confused with a $1,500 unit. This is expensive for a company, but Enagic stands behind its product 100%. They have total confidence in the products that they sell. In fact, our team valued this alone to be worth an extra $350. And number 9. For this question, let me give you a little bit of background. In the US and Canada, if you have extremely hard water, your ionizer could run into some issues. Many people agree that this machine has been engineered to work under extreme conditions and can handle the toughest waters. In fact, as a compliment to us, KYK states on their site that the SD501, and I quote, uses 7 platinum titanium plates, while the KYK Harmony uses 5. This means that the SD501 is a stronger water ionizer than the KYK Harmony. But if you live in West Texas, parts of Utah, and surrounding states, your water is very hard, meaning it's full of scale, and that makes water ionization difficult because the electrolysis cannot penetrate the scale. A 7-plate system like the SD501 will ionize this difficult hard water better. It is also probably the only system strong enough to make strong acidic water from this hard water. Even we recommend, under extreme circumstances such as tough well water, to purchase a pre-filter. But again, this unit was designed to endure the abuse that restaurants would put it through, so your household is more than adequately covered. As a mental note on Jupiter's site, they warn you that the Orion and Aquarius models shouldn't be used in hard water states, that the model down the Melody can actually handle this better. Now my guess is that this has something to do with those mesh plates. They also ask you to use 1 to 2 pre-filters to help out the ionizer, so keep this in mind. Now the SD501 owners valued this feature at an average of about $150. So you can feel confident about buying this water ionizer in all of the 50 states and all of Canada. So when you tally up the dollar value of all these features and enhancements, they total $5,200. And when you combine that with the original $1,500, you get a grand total of $6,700. Now we've noticed that there's a tremendous difference between the $450 to $1,500 machines, and there's about an equal gap between the $1,500 and $4,000 machines. So once this is understood, you find it hard-pressed to value the SD501 at anything less than $4,000. In fact, maybe I should call the company and ask them to raise the price. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's move on. When they began, Enagic had one of three business models to choose from, the first being a retail store. But let's face it, how many people would walk in off the street and pick up one of these machines from a salesman with very little prior information? Like, how would they even become aware of the concept of alkaline water? Second would have been a door-to-door style business like vacuum sales. But once again, this isn't very appealing, and how many people would buy a machine from a total stranger? The third, the direct sales model or word-of-mouth concept that Enagic chose, made the best business sense. Let's face it, there's a fair bit of education involved, and if a family member or a friend came to you and said that they were having tremendous results drinking this water, you're more likely to trust them and investigate this for yourself. They also decided that they could pay one person a commission or divide the same amount amongst 8 people, giving more people an incentive to work together and help each other out, sharing the benefits of Kangen water. It took over 2 years for them to design this innovative and unique business model. There shouldn't be anything wrong with helping people recover or maintain their health, as long as the cost of the machine isn't overpriced to do it. I must applaud Enagic for their patience. They've refused to engage in this water war, especially with Jupiter. They honestly didn't believe that they were product-for-product actual competition. To them, it probably feels like being the big bulldog with a little chihuahua insisting that it's just as tough. In this case, I think that we've proven that their bark is worse than their bite. One of the things Jupiter has done well is create reasonable doubt. On one hand, they have great ad copy and marketing. Their machines also look great, but I'd rather look great instead of my machine making my kitchen look good. They seem to be more focused on quantity, where Enagic is more focused on quality. One of the things I considered strongly when I was making my choice is that there isn't much point in owning a water machine if it's not going to last, and I'd rather make it a one-time purchase and do it right the first time. Now in closing, here's a funny way to think about it. Humor me for a second. You're about to be born onto planet Earth, and you're sitting in front of the Almighty. He says you're about to enter Earth for a lifetime. But before you go down there, you have to choose a body, and I have 2 different types to pick from. There's the premium model that will do what you want it to do 100% of the time and last you a lifetime without any trouble. This puppy will run you $4,000. Or I can save you $2,500 for the base model. It will do almost half of what the other one's capable of, and it won't last you anywhere near as long, but it will only cost you $1,500. The bonus is you can either bank the extra or buy yourself a nicer car with the difference. What will it be? You'd probably laugh and say, don't be ridiculous. Now obviously I'm only kidding, but that's just a fun way of saying that I won't settle for anything but the best. But that's exactly what people have been accidentally doing when they didn't have all the correct information. We just hope that we've been able to shed some light on the major differences, allowing you to make a choice based on truth and accurate information. I'd like to thank you for your time, and remember, the only wealth we can't live without is health. Have an outstanding day and take care.